A teenage couple is seen hanging out off the side of a road at night. Suddenly, they are attacked by something that eliminates the guy and abducts the girl. The young girl struggles at the back of the van, and the next thing, she's being dragged to an unknown location where she gets knocked out. The next time she opens her eyes, she finds herself in some type of facility with an unconscious girl lying down on a bed beside her. She is kept there by a strange alien man known as the Leader, and together with his assistant, the girls are put through a series of tests to see whose hybrid baby can survive Earth's atmosphere. One of the girls eventually delivers a baby, but not long after, the baby passes away. The man then crouches beside her and takes her life, marking her as a failed attempt. Meanwhile, somewhere in DC, Brid Cole is having a dream in which he finds himself in a park. The dream appears to be at a birthday party with Brid holding an orange balloon. Suddenly, he is startled by the sound of his alarm clock. He sits up and throws a sock at it, but he misses. Brid is an introverted guy who grew up in an orphanage after his father ran away and he lost his mother. He seeks nothing but a normal life, and that's exactly what he has been doing for the past 20 years. Later, Brid finds himself at his workplace, Quark, where he delivers mail to the workers there. After a round of deliveries, he goes to the break room to have breakfast. While there, a co-worker, Charlotte Parker, walks in to grab herself some coffee. Brid is taken aback by her beauty and doesn't realize he is staring until Charlotte turns around. She says, "Hey," but Brid only nervously waves. Charlotte then laughs and heads out, leaving Brid in his awkwardness. The next day, Brid wakes up to his alarm again, throws a sock at it, and still misses. Then he goes off to work, sorts the mail out, and then delivers it as usual. While delivering the mail to his best friend, Trent points out Charlotte, and Brid is once again caught staring. Trent tells him he has tried to woo Charlotte, but to no avail.
Believe me, I've tried.
He also asks Brid if he knows anything about transverses as regards the trade he was working on, but Brid tells him he doesn't know much. Trent gets frustrated at the fact that he won't be getting a promotion at this rate and suggests getting coffee instead. Brid then asks him if he really needs that promotion, but Trent tells him to forget about it and that instead he will try his luck with Charlotte again. After Trent leaves to get his coffee, Brid tries to get back to his deliveries when a message pops up on Trent's screen to close the trade. Brid then takes a seat, monitors the activities for a while, and then successfully makes a great trade. He then stands up and rushes out of Trent's cubicle, and at the same time their boss, who is passing by, notices the numbers. He commends Trent, who is just returning from his coffee break, for a job well done.
You just earned your own portfolio.
But Trent knows that Brid is behind it. Later that day, at Trent's place, the duo celebrates Trent's promotion at work. Trent, however, tells Brid that he knows he had something to do with the promotion, pointing out that those trades were impossible. Brid waves it off, but Trent tries to convince him to live a little and use his God-given talents to do amazing things. Brid, however, wishes to remain under the radar. He claims that if he starts making waves, people will start looking for him. The next day, Brid is having the same dream again when suddenly he is woken by a knock on the door. He goes to answer and finds a man with a delivery for him. Brid is about to sign the parcel when he sees that it is addressed to Jocelyn Cole, his mother. He points that fact out to the delivery man, but the man doesn't understand until Brid tells him that his mother has been dead for 20 years now. After the delivery man leaves, Brid opens the parcel to find a note from his mother, which reads, "I hope this explains some things. Love, Mom." He also finds a strange-looking device in the parcel, not quite what he was expecting. The following day, Brid is still trying to figure out how to turn on the strange device when Charlotte walks in. She tries to make small talk, but Brid just remains quiet. Charlotte then asks for a letter opener and points one out on the shelf behind Brid. Brid tells her to go ahead and take it without making eye contact. Charlotte then climbs on top of Brid's desk and grabs the letter opener to tease Brid. The opener slides off her hands as she slips from the table, but Brid takes the letter opener out of the way and catches her almost immediately. The two immediately hit it off from there, and later that day, they're hanging out together. During the hangout, Charlotte asks Brid about his family. Brid explains to her that his father took off when he was a toddler, and his mother died few years after that. She then offers him a bracelet made from flower stems to cheer him up.
Here, I made this for you.
He smiles and reaches for the plants to make her a ring. That night, Charlotte follows Brid to his place to continue their hangout, but they are surprised to find the place completely trashed. What is even worse is that they also find their boss lying dead on the floor with a letter opener in his chest. Brid realizes they're not alone and urges Charlotte to remain quiet when suddenly they're almost jumped by a mysterious figure. They barely manage to make it out of the building alive and to the car parked outside, only to find out that the tires have been slashed. The duo then continues their escape on foot, eventually coming to a stop some streets away. As they catch their breaths, Trent pops into Brid's mind, so he quickly gives Trent a call for help.
Are you okay? Get over here.
Trent answers strangely, asking Brid to come over immediately. But it turns out the men who were after Brid were already at Trent's place holding him hostage. Brid and Charlotte then rush over to Trent's place under those suspicions. On reaching there, they find Trent lying dead on the floor through his window. Brid loses it for a second, slamming himself on the window and alerting the aliens. Charlotte then takes his hands as they make a run for it. They quickly make it to a parked car, which Charlotte hotwires before driving off. As they drive down the highway, Brid calls 911 to report the issue, but Charlotte yanks the phone out of his hands and ends the call. She warns him that the crimes were made to look like he did it, so calling the authorities was a bad idea. Brid, however, insists that he'll explain everything, claiming he is innocent, but Charlotte reminds him that his fingerprints are on the letter opener that was used to kill his boss, and that he was the last person to call Trent before his death. Brid then pleads with Charlotte to go to the cops and explain everything since she hasn't been implicated yet, but Charlotte refuses and pops the radio back in. On the channel, it is revealed that Charlotte has been identified as Brid's aide, and that she is a 3-time offender who is considered armed and dangerous.
You still want to go to the police?
Brid steps out of the car in disbelief, ranting about how he spent his whole life quietly living and trying to avoid the criminal lifestyle, only to end up in it. Charlotte breaks it to him that there's no way of going back to normal, but urges him to get his head back in the game. Brid, however, is still confused and asks Charlotte who could possibly be after him. On the other hand, Charlotte thinks the best question to ask is why anyone would be after someone like Brid, but neither of them knows the answer to that. Charlotte also points out that for someone to be relentless after Brid like this, then it must mean that they want something from him. And just then it dawns on Brid that he is still with that strange device that was delivered to him the previous day. The duo then heads to a small local restaurant where Brid shows Charlotte the device. He tells her he's been trying to turn it on but can't seem to understand it. He also explains to her that it supposedly came from his mom.
So your mom sent you that?
Who died 20 years ago, and he thought it was some kind of prank until people started coming after his life. Brid then tries rubbing his hands on the device screen, which picks up his fingerprint and suddenly comes on to reveal a game. Charlotte then grabs the device to play the game on display, but loses when the game's speed increases. Suddenly, they get a warning on the screen that only 2 attempts are left for the device to initiate data erasure. Brid then takes up the device to try. He hits play and stares at the screen, studying the patterns, while Charlotte yells at him not to let the chance go to waste. The game ends, and Brid, having studied the pattern, is ready. He takes the last chance, frantically pressing the direction keys, and surprisingly beats the game. Before Charlotte can react, a message that reads, "I'm proud of you, son," then pops up on the screen, followed by an address and some numbers.
Feel like a road trip?
They then head to the said location, which turns out to be an old library. On arriving, they realize that the place is locked, but Charlotte picks the lock to let them in. Inside, they are confused that it is just a library and don't know what they should be looking for. Charlotte then realizes that they're looking for a book with the Dewey Decimal arrangement, which would explain the numbers. As they trace the numbers down the shelves, they don't realize that the alien is hiding somewhere among the shelves. After searching, they find the book in the most unexpected places, at the top of a shelf. Brid takes the book and is scared to open it under the assumption that it might be a bomb inside. Charlotte, on the other hand, doesn't have the patience and suggests that it could be a Christmas present. Convinced, Brid opens the book, but they find another strange device resembling a tablet inside.
My folks never gave me anything this cool.
As they try to figure out what it is, the alien shows up. Brid tells Charlotte to run and offers the device to the alien, thinking that it is what he wants. But he soon finds out the hard way when the alien sends him to the ground and starts repeatedly punching him at super speed. Charlotte turns back to come to his aid, but Brid studies the guy's attack and soon catches his punch, kicking him off. He then rushes to Charlotte, takes her hand and runs for the exit when a security guard shows up questioning the ruckus. The duo comes to a halt and turns around to witness the alien dodge a bullet that was released by the guard. And with the same super speed, the alien slits the guard's throat. Charlotte and Brid then rush off and head back to the car before driving off. Charlotte is still baffled at how the alien dodged a bullet, and even more surprised that Brid managed to catch his punch at that super speed level. They soon arrive at a motel where Brid interchanges the car plate with another vehicle parked nearby. Meanwhile, the alien returns to base to report to the leader of his failure to catch Brid. As a result of his failure, the leader strikes him down. The next day, Brid is having that same dream again, when suddenly he wakes up to find Charlotte telling him that he snores. Brid immediately gets back on the device, which Charlotte reveals she managed to turn on but didn't know how to proceed further. Brid realizes it's a video, but to access the video, a question must be answered. The question being what Brid's favorite color is. After a little hesitation, the device displays the word balloon as a hint, and Brid is starting to think that someone really is messing with him. He recalls the balloon from his dreams and enters the answer orange. The video then begins with Brid's father, Cole Sr., who reveals that he and Brid are not normal and that he came to Earth on a mission to test for colonization, but failed. But that's when he met Brid's mother and had Brid. He explains that Brid's birth was a miracle and how he survived Earth's atmosphere cannot be explained. But then he apologizes that he had to leave to make sure that Brid would be safe. He also makes it clear that the video is a warning to Brid.
This video is a warning.
That the fellow aliens know of his existence, hence the reason he's being hunted down. Brid is filled with sadness and rage and takes the device outside. Charlotte goes after him but is unable to find the words to calm him down. Suddenly, Brid takes his anger out on the device and smashes it into bits, despite Charlotte's disapproval of destroying it. She stands there, watching him, let out all the rage, and after a while, he crashes. Charlotte then walks up to him to comfort him, but Brid asks to be left alone. Charlotte, however, refuses to leave him in this state, so she tries to get him to see the brighter side. Brid then reminds her that he spent 20 years trying to create a normal life, and look at where that brought him. He reminds her that he just found out that his father, who abandoned him for years, all of a sudden thinks it's okay to send a recording revealing to him that after all these years, he's an alien. And as much as Charlotte would like to refer to it as a reunion, Brid thinks the whole situation is messed up. Charlotte then reminds him that people would love to be special like him and asks him to at least be grateful for what he has.
Normal life was not that great.
But Brid tells her off. Unable to get through to him, Charlotte leaves him and returns to the motel. A while later, she returns with a cup of water to find him calm. And when they return to the motel, they find the cops in the area looking for them. Charlotte tries to go back to get her purse, but Brid stops her and drags her away. Thankfully, it is revealed that Charlotte's bag has a tracker, which would explain why the alien keeps finding them. They both end up in an open field, far from the motel grounds. While there, Brid finally opens up to Charlotte, telling her how he has tried his best since he was 10 to stick by the rules. And even before the incident, he claims he tried so hard to be a model citizen. He then reveals to her that he had to grow up in an orphanage
I grew up in an orphanage.
where he hoped to get a family. He did get adopted eventually, but sadly had to be sent back just a week after. He explains that he was enjoying his new family until the day he played ping pong with his new older brother. He beat his brother at the game, and his adoptive father offers to take him on. Things got competitive with the father, and Brid ends up beating his adoptive father 11-2. The crazy part is that Brid did this at the age of 10. After winning, Brid claims he threw his little hands up in the air, rejoicing, but his brother and father just stood there in silence. Turns out the family was freaked out by this and sent Brid right back to the orphanage the following week. But despite the gloom, Brid manages to brighten up the mood by offering Charlotte a flower bracelet, like she did the last time. Later that night, while at a gas station fueling up, Charlotte storms out of the convenience store with a wanted poster of both of them. She then shows him an ad for a vacation house on sale, not too far from their current location, and suggests that they hide there until they can figure out what to do next. They then immediately head into the vehicle and drive to the property. While resting that night,
We just need to clear your name.
Charlotte comes up with a crazy idea of tracking down these aliens and leading them to the cops. Brid thinks the idea is crazy and impossible, but when Charlotte reminds him of how much he yearns for a normal life, Brid's interest is piqued. He asks Charlotte how they would be able to find these aliens, and Charlotte tells Brid that she has a hunch that he doesn't know the limits of what he can accomplish with his gifts. As the days go by, the duo immediately gets to work, piecing clues and gathering intel from newspapers. Charlotte also helps train Brid to help him hone his speed, memory, and agility. During most of their training, Charlotte discovers that Brid has bad aim, but is surprisingly good at everything else.
Smarty pants.
She tries to get him to shoot at a pumpkin, but he almost gets them killed. The next day, instead of focusing on his aim, she tries to train his speed. However, Brid doesn't dodge in time and gets grazed by a bullet fired by Charlotte. Some days later, the news announces that the toll of kidnappings has been rising, as victims between the ages of 16 and 30 continue to go missing. And after a few days of hard work, Brid is finally able to trace the pattern and deduce exactly where the aliens are. Later that night, Charlotte tells Brid that she can't wait for them to have their lives back and enjoy their relationship. Brid, in all the excitement, then tells her that he needs to clear his name fast. But when Charlotte tells him to keep things interesting for her so she doesn't get bored, Brid takes offense, and the two get into an argument. Brid tells her off, reminding her that she's an offender who never stays in one place, as she's busy bouncing from town to town and guy to guy.
So you get sick of free lunches or I get myself killed then, huh?
She retaliates, telling Brid that eventually his tortured hero act would get boring, but Brid gets even more upset and leaves. Charlotte is left alone in the house, and after crying, she calls for a taxi service. Meanwhile, Brid finds himself at a local restaurant where he is beginning to rethink what he did. The waitress offers him more coffee, but as she is about to pour it into his cup, the coffee spills all over the counter. The waitress panics and quickly apologizes, telling Brid that it's her first day. Brid tells her not to worry and to give it a shot, and that's when he realizes he needs to listen to his own advice. Back in the house, Charlotte hears the door open downstairs and smiles, thinking that Brid has returned. But it turns out that it is the leader and an alien escort who snuck into the house, not Brid. A while later, Brid returns to the house to find a few things out of place and no signs of Charlotte. Meanwhile, back in their base, Charlotte, who has been kidnapped, regains consciousness briefly. She notices the teenage girl from earlier in the film lying on a bed near hers. While trying to make sense of what is happening, the leader shows up with his sidekick. Charlotte then sees a device showing that she's pregnant. Meanwhile, Brid is on his way to the location and puts a call through to 911 to reveal the location.
Listen carefully. I found who you're looking for.
He soon reaches the place and grabs a gun before sneaking into the vicinity. He makes his way slowly to the entrance but finds a room full of research papers on the human anatomy and fetus. He continues to slowly walk deeper into the building and comes across a lot of oxygen tanks scattered on the floor. In the next room, he finds the teenage girl and quickly unties her, asking her to keep quiet. He manages to sneak her out of the building and asks her to run and remain hidden so they can go after Charlotte. The girl scurries off in fear, while Brid proceeds to check the next building. He peeks through the broken woods to find Charlotte alive and struggling, but as he tries to sneak into the building, one of the aliens catches him and knocks him out. Brid then wakes up a while later to find the alien entering the combination code for the cuffs around his arms, but after that, he knocks out again. Later, he wakes up in a room where both him and Charlotte are tied to chairs. The leader then shows up with his assistant to collect a blood sample from Brid. While on it, Brid asks what they need his blood for.
What is it then?
but gets no response. Instead, they retrieve the sample and leave without a word. Charlotte, on the other hand, finally wakes up happy to see Brid. Brid then tells her to try moving her chair close to his. He tells her to feel the buttons on his cuffs and tries to remember the combination he had seen earlier, but Charlotte accidentally pushes the wrong button, canceling the code. Brid then warns her that every time she pushes the wrong button, the cuff tightens, and with that she pulls herself back together. Brid then calls out the combination while Charlotte enters it successfully, setting Brid free. Just then, one of the alien henchmen shows up to find that their captives have disappeared. He looks around the building and finds Charlotte sitting and waving. Brid then swings in, knocking him out before grabbing Charlotte. They both rush out of the building, about to escape, when Brid tells Charlotte that they need to get the vial with his blood back. They start looking around, but are suddenly attacked by the leader. Brid then tells Charlotte to run and look for the vial while he handles the boss.
Find the vial! Go!
As Charlotte rushes off, Brid becomes a punching bag for the leader. Meanwhile, Charlotte manages to locate the vial but is attacked by the alien henchman. They get into a brief fight, but the alien overpowers Charlotte and knocks her out. Back outside, Brid is still being overpowered by the leader when he finally realizes what's going on. Just then, he rips off a tube from the alien's side, revealing that he now understands why they need his blood. It turns out that the aliens are unable to breathe air's oxygen, which would explain the numerous oxygen tanks lying around the place, and the reason they will need Brid's blood is to extract his DNA and genetically modify themselves to fit Earth's criteria and thus succeed with the colonization plans. He leaves the leader to his doom and quickly finds Charlotte. They then rush out to find the henchman already driving off. Brid then grabs a gun and suggests that they take a shortcut through the woods. Luckily, they make it in time, but Brid realizes that he won't make the shot if he tries. Brid may be all that he is, but his flaw happens to be bad aim. Instead, he suggests that Charlotte aim while he does the shooting.
You aim, I shoot.
He points at a mailbox and asks her to aim for it. He then gets behind her as they await the vehicle. With a clear aim from Charlotte and great timing from Brid, they manage to land a hit on the alien driving the vehicle. The car then swerves and crashes into a tree. As Brid commends their team effort, Charlotte gives him a grateful hug. They then turn to leave, but suddenly, the leader shows up and tries to shoot them. Brid urges Charlotte to run and faces off with the leader. The leader then takes his aim and shoots at Brid, sending him straight to the ground. Charlotte screams and turns around, heading back to Brid, while the leader approaches Brid to finish him off. But just then, Brid catches the nozzle of the gun, pulls it out of his grasp, and fires a shot right through the leader. He then stands up to reveal that he had managed to dodge the bullet earlier. Charlotte yells at him for making her worry, but he makes her a ring out of leaves, officially asking her to be his girlfriend.
I guess this makes me your girlfriend, huh?
Meanwhile, officers soon arrive at the scene of the crime, where all the abductions and experiments have been taking place. Brid also manages to clear his name by providing them with proof. As he stands thinking of what happens next, Charlotte walks up to him to congratulate him on having his life back. But Brid seems off, so she asks him what's going on. Brid then tells her that he has family out there somewhere. Charlotte smiles and then tells Brid that she actually has something to tell him about family, and as they head down the road on foot, Charlotte breaks the news to him that she's pregnant. Brid started off as an introvert who wanted nothing but a quiet life, but he got the opposite of what he wanted. He ended up with criminal charges for crimes he didn't commit and had to run from town to town to escape not only the law, but also a bunch of aliens who believe they can use him as a case study to modify their respiratory system, which would allow them breathe the Earth's oxygen, and in other words, allow them dominate the Earth. But in all, Brid didn't have to go through all that alone. Thanks to Charlotte, he could find his footing and the answers to all the questions he's had for the past 20 years. However, Brid still doesn't have the answer to one particular question: his father's whereabouts. What if Cole Sr. is still alive? And more importantly, what does the future have in store for Brid now that he's no longer that shy, introverted guy, but a potential dad?